The peace project starts now. Are you in? Hello everyone, I hope you're doing fantastic. Today we're going to continue with the second part of Kosovo the Gain of Power. Now if you didn't watch the first part, you can watch it now by clicking on the link located next to my face or on the one located in the info bar below. Now in this video we're going to speak about two very important factors. First one is the intervention by the NATO. Second one is the Kosovo Unilateral Declaration of Independence. So I think you will all agree with me when I say that the NATO intervened in Kosovo against the international law. It cannot be justified by the Charter of the United Nations or the self-defense established in the Article 51, which can only be applied to the armed attacks. That is because the Serbian actions are just considered as a force. There's another thing to consider. Madeleine Albright insisted during all the process to intervene, which they finally did. That means that there is not a true control over the interventions and that the fact comes over the law. The particular interests lead to a selective violence. The Security Council has to deal with the armed interventions because of humanitarian reasons. That is why, from my point of view, it is necessary to ban the veto. In that way, all the countries would face the decisions together and express the willing of all of the ones that have the responsibility to do it. That would avoid the approvals after the conflict and its so convenient retroactive effect. The intervention of the NATO ended up with the Resolution 1244 of the Security Council, which forced the Serbian forces to withdraw and to demilitarize the KLA. They agreed that Kosovo would still be a part of Serbia, but they avoided the intervention of the Serbian government in the administration, which from that moment would fall to the enemy. This measure intended to re-establish the public order. The following tries of negotiation between Kosovo and Serbia showed the evident need for independence. Following the natural course of events, the 17th February 2008 it was presented the Kosovo Unilateral Declaration of Independence. The 8th of October of the same year, the General Assembly of the United Nations approved the Serbian Resolution 63-3, by which it was ordered to the International Court of Justice, according to the Article 96 of the Charter of the United Nations, to deliver an advisory opinion about the compatibility of the declaration and the international law. That would show if the unilateral declarations of independence are forbidden or if they had infringed any international law. For that, from the 1st of December of 2009, the International Court of Justice started a period of written claims about it, in which could participate any member of the United Nations, the Kosovo institutions, and the General Secretary. Now, because I am Spanish, I would like to mention the Spanish oral claim. It was presented by Concepción Escobar Hernández, who firmly rejected the independence of Kosovo. Among her arguments, she mentioned that the country's borders would be very affected and that it was needed a bilateral will that did not exist. But also, the cessation could not happen because the Kosovo-Albanian institutions were provisionals and they would not avoid the violation of the human rights. In the advisory opinion, the court mentioned the independence declarations of the 18th and 20th century, and it specified that none of them had been considered to be against the international law. The court made also reference to the claims that were based on the principle of the territorial integrity of the states established in the Article 2.4 of the Charter of the United Nations, by which it was forbidden the unilateral declarations of independence. Nevertheless, the court rejected it because the principle cannot be applied to the cessation of a part of the territory of an state, but only to the relation between states. On the other hand, it later stressed that the Resolution 1244 that I mentioned before did not exclude the option of the independence, because if the Council of Security would have wanted that, it would be written in the resolution. The court added that the special envoy of the Security Council and the UNMIC were the ones responsible to reach a political agreement, not the people who represented Kosovo. The Declaration of Independence had nothing to do with the administrative scope. It was the representation of the will of the people. Therefore, a new legalization was created, and it not only gave Kosovo its independence, but also it had to be permanent, because on one hand, the negotiations with Serbia were useless, and on the other hand, the Security Council did not ban it. It was the 22nd of July of 2010, and it was allowed the independence because there did not exist any international law that banned the unilateral declarations of independence, and that is why it had to be accepted, excluding the ones that were against the international legal order, of course. Now, I think it is remarkable that the court gave so much importance to the will of the people to create a new state. It is confirmed that the power lies with the people, and that the Kosovo Albanian citizens can exercise their democratic right to a new start in their history. With regard to this subject, we notice that the Spanish claim had a double objective. Denying the unilateral independence of Kosovo was a test for a future where this same country could play the leading part of a similar decision. Conclusion: that could be the start, maybe, and I say maybe, of a unionist program developed by all of the territories that would want to recognize their independence in order to pressure altogether the creation of a law that would establish the right to the general secession, under some conditions, of course. Well, here I say that NATO did not follow the law, and that can only mean two things. The law represents no justice, and as a consequence it does not lead to peace, or that the NATO was guided by private interests. I'm also very surprised that by all of the risks that were taken when deciding to follow with intervention, because if they would have failed, the NATO would have lost its credibility. Now I wonder why did they want to go so far with it? I leave it on the air for you to answer if you want. In conclusion, I think that the power comes from fear just when you don't know how to create the appropriate bonds to encourage loyalty and respect, which are characteristic from a governor who feels the same towards the country that he leads. This is just what I think, of course. This video, together with the first part, are in memoriam of all the innocent civilians who died in this conflict. Created under the category about justice. And by the way, I already have some questions for you. Do you think that am I right about banning the veto? What is your opinion about the relation between peace and this type of intervention? Do you think that it is justified or not? It was really for peace, or peace was just a secondary effect? Well, I think that you know that my website is www.thepeaceprojectstartsnow.com. You can contact me through Facebook, where I am The Peace Project Starts Now, or through Twitter, where I am The True Peace. Well, if you liked this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to support my work. Be healthy and follow peace in your life. See you in the next video. The Peace Project starts now. Are you in?